Election day is right around the corner, and the country is still divided over the next leader of the free world. Who are Minnesotans voting for, and what are the most pressing issues that face our nation today? I speak to locals to get their perspective on the most anticipated election. I'm Rana Kamal. This is Our Issues, Twin Cities. It's been a wild year on the campaign trail. The stage has been set, contenders picked. Now the country is bracing to vote for the next president of this glorious country. Will it be Secretary Hillary Clinton, who has been called the most qualified candidate of all time? Or Donald Trump, billionaire businessman turned reality star, who is promising to make America great again?
The American public is looking for a leader, somebody who they feel confident in, that will sort of take them, into the next 4 years in a direction that they feel good about.
David Schultz, a political science professor at Hamline University, says although Clinton and Trump are the last two standing candidates, they are the least popular nominees in the previous 40 years. It's been a crazy, highly entertaining election year. Have you ever witnessed an election year like this one?
Well, we haven't seen one like this in recent American history. If we take us back to the 19th century, they were far uglier, than we have today, with all kinds of accusations. But this is, in many ways, the first one where I'd almost say now it's a not ready for prime time campaign. Between the accusations about Bill Clinton's and sort of his infidelity, about Donald Trump and the access video about women, this is certainly the kind of stuff that you don't have a lot of kids, young kids being able to watch.
We wanted to get a general consensus of who Minnesotans are voting for in the upcoming election. So we took to the streets to find out. Who are you going to be voting for?
Trump.
I'll go for Hillary.
Hillary.
I voted for Hillary.
Who are you going to be voting for?
Trump.
Hillary.
Hillary.
Hillary Clinton.
I'm going to be voting for Hillary Clinton.
Why are you going to be voting for Trump?
Because I'm tired of the same old, and that's what I see in Hillary.
Why are you voting for Hillary?
Well, there's a multitude of reasons. She is the most qualified candidate currently running. There's really two ways to look at it. She's either the one qualified candidate among a gaggle of people who don't know what they're doing, or she is the least evil of four evils, and then a bunch of other people who don't know what they're doing.
Do you agree with him, or are you voting for him because you just don't like Hillary?
No, I agree with a lot of the stuff he says, but I would rather have him. We need somebody as strong, somebody with strong personality and with a business background, with all the business that needs to be taken care of, especially, nowadays it's just business everywhere. So he's a businessman. Hillary ain't got that.
What do you like and don't like in each of the candidates?
I don't like Donald Trump slinging all this mud. To me, it's not. He doesn't talk issues. He talks mudslinging, and I don't like that. And Hillary, I'm just not really convinced that maybe she might be the candidate, but she's the lesser two evils.
She has been called the most qualified candidate of all time. He doesn't really have a lot of experience. You think that he's the right person for the job?
You know what? That's that's known to be seen.
Are you confident that she's the right person for the job?
No.
Why?
Because I don't think either one of them are.
She's the most sensible candidate of the two by 1,000 miles. I mean, Trump is a total nut job as far as I can tell.
What are you looking for in the next president?
Well, I'm looking for somebody that is addressing the issues and not acting the tyrant.
Addressing issues have seemed to be lost in translation as presidential hopefuls Clinton and Trump focus on one another's character flaws.
On Trump's side is that he's really has made the issue of character a big point for him, saying that he's the kind of person who can bring about real change in Washington. So he's always made his whole campaign about his character, about his persona. Clinton, on the other hand, I think has wanted to talk about public policy, but for a variety of reasons, the email scandal that continues to dog her. I think it's sort of focusing on her character, and now with the WikiLeaks or continued WikiLeaks, that's putting character front and center. So we've really made character more than an issue than it normally would be, as opposed to discussing really at the end of the day.
So what are the top issues among voters?
I think they're the issues that people are worried about elsewhere. It's going to be the rising cost of health care under the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare. It's going to be issues in terms of the economy, even though things look good in the Twin Cities. Statewide, things aren't so good. And then I think there's clearly concerns all about sort of racial justice that I think are going to affect a certain percentage of the population in terms of them being concerned.
Personally, to you, what are the most important issues that the nation is facing today?
The debt.
The ISIS situation, because I think that's going to be one of the major things that's going to come up, is what ISIS is doing and how they're doing it. And you need a leader that is going to be able to compromise with them and talk to them and see their point of view and let them know that you are listening to them.
Marriage equality, the economy, women's health, the general American health.
Climate change.
Economy. I think the minimum wage should be at $15.
Personally, I am married to a man, and I'd like to remain legally recognized in that relationship. So that's extremely important to me.
Having the right president in the office, that's pretty pressing for me.
I think the experience that the candidate can bring to the world stage with everything that's going on in Syria and around the world, I think having someone who's respected around the world is extremely important.
When we return, a social experiment on one of the most important issues in this campaign you don't want to miss. The 2016 elections has been a bumpy ride, and rightfully so. Much of this election has been about character assassination and highly unforgivable mistakes. Clinton's emails, Trump's vulgar sexist language towards women, Clinton's untrustworthiness, Trump's tax records or lack thereof, and the list goes on and on and on.
I've sort of described it, as many others, as sort of the Jerry Springer show without Jerry Springer. That people are going to tune in and watch it because they want to see what's going to happen next. And there's a lot of electricity there. And I think for partisans, they love the idea if Trump says to Clinton, I'm going to put you in jail. The Clinton people love it when she makes accusations about Trump in terms of him not being sorry. And so that just sort of adds to the fuel.
Well, I think his flaws outweigh hers by a considerable amount. I mean, sure, she's got some flaws, but I don't think they're going to inhibit her from being a good president.
He's like an older guy, and like that generation was like a lot still brought up being, racist. A lot of people were still that way in those days.
You can definitely see, just watching Donald Trump and the things that he says, that he has an attitude that I think really disqualifies him for the presidency.
What is being said of her is being blown out of proportion, or the facts being ignored, whereas what's being said about him are people either supporting a racist, homophobic, bigoted, intolerant, rich dude, or they're on board with it.
Both of them are using fear in different ways. Trump is using sort of fear of immigrants, fear of Muslims. Clinton is using fear of Donald Trump.
Immigration and terrorism are among the top concerns for voters this election year. Throughout his campaign, Donald Trump has strongly voiced his opinion on combating terrorism, citing Muslim immigrants and calling for a ban.
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States.
One suggesting Muslims living in the U.S. wear a badge naming their religious identity. This drew outrage amongst many Americans as well as support. We decided to do a social experiment to get people's thoughts. Presenting Exhibit A, a highly educated, driven young man in his 30s who works for a Fortune 500 company. He's been on a work visa for over 10 years. Oh, and he happens to be an Arab and Muslim. We asked locals if they thought he should be supported by the U.S. government to stay and complete his immigration process.
No, I mean, when we got them coming over here, people bombing us, blowing us up. This never used to happen when I was a kid. It was, I mean, it just seemed like it was just a lot more safer and nobody would mess with U.S. But now everybody's taking their shots at us, and I mean, there's got to be some kind of programming, whether this businessman or 20 business people are doing okay. That's like, you know, that's not worth anything over here. I think. I mean, once it gets all straightened out, they take a look at it. But I think everybody should be sent back to where they came from, and they should just to see how everything works out and get our business straight at home.
Should the U.S. government support him?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because he's proven that he's not the ISIS type, that he's, you know, the terrorist type. He's already proven himself to this country. So yes, I could honestly say I would be comfortable even sitting next to him or talking to him.
Yeah, I agree with what she says. If you let him be a U.S. citizen.
I don't see why not. I mean, he is working. He is helping the people around him. He's working hard. He's learning. Got an MBA, you said? Yeah. Then, you know, he's as American as the next person. He is trying to make his life better. He is trying to do things that everyone else here is trying to do.
Immigration is another huge issue that, you know, personally doesn't affect me as much, but I think with like, you know, 11 million people that are here in very similar situations that have good jobs, that can contribute to our economy, that have families. I think it's definitely important to bring those kinds of people out of the shadows and get them on a path to citizenship. And I know there's security concerns, you know, that you know, especially taking in people from Syria and everything. So we have to be smart about it. But I think we have the intelligence we need to, you know, vet the people we need to. And if he's been here for 10 years and he doesn't have any sort of record or anything like that, then absolutely.
At the same time, we turned the tables and asked the same question to the same people, but presented this guy, who was also smart, driven, holds a high-ranking position at a great company, and is on a work visa from England with hopes to become an American citizen. Here's what people thought.
Yes.
Yes, I agree. Yes, let him support him all he wants to.
I personally don't see a difference. I mean, I disagree with what Donald Trump has said about having a litmus test on certain religions, and I mean, there are people who are born in America that are just as likely to grab an assault rifle and go in and shoot up a movie theater or a school or a nightclub, and we can't just point at people and say, oh, you look more likely to do that, because, you know, straight white men are just as dangerous, and we have to hold everybody the same standard and look objectively at what have you done, what are you involved in, what's your record, and if you're you know, your record's clean and you're going to contribute and not be a dangerous person, then absolutely you should have the same rights to become a citizen or get in the line for that green card as anyone who's Muslim or black or from whatever country.
Do you think that the U.S. should support him in getting his green card and becoming a citizen?
I'm just saying, everybody who's like all them green cards, all the visas or working permits, everybody should be sent back to where their countries they're from, and we should take care of our own issues and problems until we get our U.S. back to where we were. And I think Trump will be the guy to take us there. Hillary, people laugh at her, but Trump, you know, he's not been tested and whatever yet, but in that capacity, and I think he'd do a good job. But, you know, like these guys, if they're doing so good, you know, what's a couple years, if they're understanding, they could come back. If there's some kind of work program or something, they could come back in a couple years or 5 years, however long it takes for us to take care of our business.
Up next on Our Issues Twin Cities, the importance of exercising your right to vote, plus where and how to register after the break. For most of the 2016 race to the White House, Democratic nominee Hillary Clinton and Republican nominee Donald Trump have been in dead heat. But according to ABC's latest news inaugural 2016 election tracking poll, Hillary now leads her opponent by 9 points among likely voters.
What do you think is going to be the outcome of the presidential election?
I think she'll win. I think she'll win by a landslide.
Trump won't win.
I think she'll win. I do mostly because Trump behaves like a reality star. She behaves like a political. She's in office.
I'm thinking that Hillary's going to win, but you know, I hope I'm right about that. I can't imagine Trump being our next president. That just appalls me.
I think Hillary's going to win. Yeah, I can't. And maybe this is, you know, dumb hope, but I can't imagine America or Donald Trump as our president.
If I were going to do some predictions right now, okay, two of them I'll make. First, the entire election is all about how a handful of swing voters in a few swing counties in a few swing states are going to decide things. And what I mean by that, there's only about 10 or 12 states that are really in play at this point. Within those 10 or 12 states, there's only about 19 counties that really matter. Whoever wins those counties wins those states, wins the election. And within those counties, there's probably only about 10% of the population within those counties that matter. And if we think about it, take two states, Ohio and Florida, which are perennial swing states. Whoever wins Hillsborough County, Florida, which is where Tampa Bay is, usually wins that state. Whoever wins Hamilton County, Ohio, where Cincinnati is, almost always wins that state. And so first, it's about looking at how these swing voters in these few swing counties and few swing states move. And based upon what I'm sort of seeing right now, I would think that Clinton has a slight advantage over Trump.
40 years ago, 15% of the population identified as swing voters.
People weren't quite as attached to their partisan political positions as they are now. Now, barely 5% of our voters are swing, and people are just so solid in terms of how they stand. And I think that's part of it, just the partisan intensity of American politics right now. But it's really critical. Again, coming back to what I said before, it's about the turnout. It's really how well she versus Donald Trump are going to be able to mobilize their voters and bring over those last-minute swing voters to their side. I think what's also going to decide the election in the state is just clearly voter mobilization and turnout. You know, that the real key is going to be to what extent Clinton and the Democrats or Trump and the Republicans can really mobilize their bases and move some swing voters over.
In the last 2012 presidential election, Minnesota led the nation with more than 76% of eligible Minnesota voters casting ballots. How important is it for voters to get out there and vote?
It is very important for them to vote because, in all states, but again, critically in those swing states, that it's a small handful of number of voters that are going to change things. Take us back 4 years ago. If approximately 400,000 voters in 4 states had shifted from Obama to Mitt Romney, Mitt Romney would be running for a second term as president right now. So we're looking at 400,000 voters or less, or fewer, I should say, that could make the difference. And again, if my analysis is correct, it could be even far less than that in terms of a few swing states and a few swing counties.
Election Day is right around the corner. According to Pew Research Center, millions of Americans have already casted their vote for the next U.S. president, forecasting this year's voter turnout to break records.
A few days ago, we exceeded the previous high number of early voting, or of absentee voting that we'd had. That was 2008, when we had 26,000 people come in to vote. A couple of days ago, we hit 30,000.
So what are the requirements to vote?
You need to have been in Minnesota for 20 days. You need to be a resident of the precinct in which you vote on the day, on election day, not convicted of felony. You need to be able to present, if you register at the polls, there's certain IDs you'd have to present. Otherwise, you'd need to get registered in advance of the election.
How important is it for an individual to exercise their right to vote?
Oh, I think it's fundamental to our democracy, of course.
I'm here in my district of Hastings, where I'm about to cast my ballot. Come with me. Just finished voting. To find your polling place, go to Minnesota's Secretary of State polling place locator to register and cast your vote at your nearest district. Thank you for joining me this week on Our Issues Twin Cities. I'm Brenda Kaman. See you next time.